The police are the public and the public are the police. Now, we've all heard that before. It's one of the Pelian principles. It goes back to 1829 when the Metropolitan Police was founded. Now, I'm going to give you the 2024 version now. The police are the public and the public are the police unless you are black. Yeah, I know, contentious. This was exactly how I started my presentation at the National Police Chiefs Council Police Race Action Plan Community Reference Group Conference a couple of weeks ago in Coventry. I was asked to attend because over the past decade or so, I've maintained an interest in this area because every year what I've seen is police officer candidates being, I'm going to go out there and say this, being discriminated against by the police service because of the colour of their skin. Now, why can I say that? Well, in this short video, I'm going to talk to you about the reasons why I can say that, justification, my rationale, the evidence behind it. And I'm also going to talk to you about some of the suggestions I made at that conference about what could be done about it. Now, for those of you who haven't seen any of my videos before or listened to any of my podcasts, I'm Brendan from Blue Light, and over the past 30 years, I've been helping people to plan, prepare and practice for promotion boards, specialist interviews, and for the police recruitment process. And over the past decade or so, I've been following the data. I've been following the evidence that demonstrates that if you are black or Asian, you have a significantly lower chance of succeeding in the police recruitment process. So I'm going to provide that evidence to you. I'm going to suggest some of the reasons why that might be the case. And also, like I said, there's no point in me just complaining about this. I'm going to provide you with 10 ideas, 10 things that you could do tomorrow without needing the police race action plan. And the audience for this, well, anyone who's particularly interested. It might be people who want to join the police, who might find it particularly shocking that the colour of their skin will determine how successful they're going to be in the recruitment process. It might be that you are preparing for a promotion and you think, actually, I could do something about this because I'm actually within the service. Or especially if you're in a senior position within the police service, because it's on you. You know, I'm sorry about this, but it's absolutely on you. It's within your gift to do something about this. And certainly, I can't keep quiet, which is why I've been invited to that conference. I can't keep quiet and just let this continue to be a problem year in, year out. So, first of all, the evidence. Well, this is a case for change because over the past several years, according to the data from the National Police Chiefs Council and the College of Policing, your chances of joining the police are much lower, not just by a few percentage points, by a huge number of percentage points if you're black. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the evidence that I have, which some people may say, well, where did you get that evidence from? I got it from the police. Actually, I didn't get it. Big up here to Media Storm and Matilda Mallinson, the podcast Media Storm, because she is one that did all the FOIs together with Dr. Pete Jones, who has also been speaking out about this for more than several years. And why am I so angry about this? Well, you know, I know what it's like to be an ethnic minority in the police service. And you may think that's odd because you look very white to me. Yeah, but I did work for 3 years in a police force where I was the ethnic minority. At one point on my team, I was the only white officer among black and Asian officers or mixed heritage officers. My sergeant was a Pakistani Trinidadian. So a real mix, but I was the ethnic minority and I got to understand what it felt like to be discriminated against. And yes, I was discriminated against, or certainly that's how I felt. And if I felt like that, then, you know, how I perceived I was being treated was how I was being treated. And so I know what it's like. And also I've helped support so many people who have been failed by the system and I've helped them get round it. I've helped them get round the system, and I've done the positive action work for police forces as well. Only the ones that actually genuinely care, by the way. Quite a few forces I've said no to because I just think they just want me to help them tick boxes. I'm not prepared to do that. So what does some of the data tell us? Well, it tells us, first of all, that 1.3% of all police officers identify themselves as black compared to 4% of the population. Now, I'm going to bust a myth here because for so many years, I keep getting people coming back to me to say that, but. The reason why you've got so few police officers who are black is because the people from the black community just don't want to apply. Well, I'm sorry, the data tells us otherwise. This is uplift data, so during the uplift period, which is where the police service, we're going through a process of recruiting an additional 20,000 officers just a few years ago, finished in March 23. During that period, 4.4% of all applicants were black. 4% of the population in England and Wales identify themselves as black. 4.4% of all applicants identify themselves as black. So that's that myth bust, that people who are black don't want to join the police. They do. They're just being failed at numbers which you might find quite shocking. If you don't find this shocking, then don't watch the rest of the video. If you do find this shocking, please watch it. If you don't find it shocking, it means you just don't care, in which case you probably won't have got this far in the video or the podcast. And so what I did during the conference is I actually got everyone to stand up. I got everyone to stand up and said, right, so if you were all white applicants, 18.7% of you nationally would succeed in the police recruitment process. I'm not going to say whether that's first time, second time or third time because I don't have that data, but 18.7% of you would succeed. So I got the other quick bit of math, 70-something percent, 78%, no, 82%, something like that to sit down, just leaving 18% of everyone standing up. And then what I did is I took it one step further, because if everyone in the room was black, it would only be 7.2%. And so I got a lot more people to sit down, leaving far fewer people standing up. Visually, quite shocking. Visually quite shocking, because what you're seeing is, this is what that actually means in terms of something you can visualize, because often it's really hard to visualize numbers. But let me just repeat these numbers again. During the uplift period, what the data tells us, remember this data came from FOIs from police forces, if you were white, then 18.7% of you who applied were going to succeed in the police recruitment process. If you were black, it was 7.2%. Can we just let that sink in a little bit? Because it's not just a couple of percentage points, is it? It's a massive, massive variation. And if any of you are thinking, God, this is a relatively new thing, it's not. I'm not going to go into the data, but I can access it. What the data tells us over a period of over a decade is that this has been the case for a long, long time. And quite frankly, I'm sick of challenging the national police chiefs about it. So I've spoken up at a conference run by Skills for Justice, where there's more than several police chiefs there, and Skills for Justice, and College of Policing, and I raised this issue, and everyone agreed it's really important, and said, right, well, why is it happening? And no one knew. It's tumbleweed. No one had the answer. Now, you'd think if it's so important that the research would be commissioned to find out why, but it hasn't been. No, it really hasn't. So I challenged Ian Hopkins about this, the previous Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, on Twitter. He had the lead for diversity, equality and inclusion when he was the Chief Constable. And yes, I am naming names because, quite frankly, I'm tired of this, and these conversations have taken place in the public domain. And I challenged him about the adverse impact on black candidates, and his response on Twitter was that everyone knows that the assessment centre throws up an adverse impact, but no one knows why. Now, you'd be expecting the lead for DEI to say, but seeing as I'm the lead for DEI for the National Police Chiefs Council, I've commissioned the research to try and find out. But nothing, tumbleweed. So if it's that important, why is there no research out there to find out why this thing is happening? So Stephen House, the previous Deputy Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, I was on his steering group. I was on his working group to help support black people join the police, help support retention and help with the relationship with the black community. And I challenged him about the adverse impact in the recruitment process, and all he could tell me was that he can't do anything about it, I can't do anything about it, it's the responsibility of the College of Policing. I can't do anything about it. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of the biggest force in the country, and I'm okay with this. I challenged him again. No, seriously, I can't do anything about it. It's down to the College of Policing. I can't influence it. And I found that really quite shocking. Chief Superintendent, who I really respect in the Met Police, Roy Smith, we were talking about these issues and a lot of other issues in the recruitment process, and he asked me to compile a report outlining all of these issues, particularly with reference to the Metropolitan Police and particularly with reference to sort of diversity issues. Then he took it to their head of HR, whoever that was, who turned around and told him, I'm not interested, it's just a numbers game. Now, this is several years ago. So if you're banging your head against this brick wall, what is going to change? Now, it was a privilege to actually be in the room with the National Police Chiefs Council's own Police Race Action Plan Community Reference Group, because I can be part of the change. And this video, I hope, will inspire you to be part of the change that's needed, because it's just not fair. It's just not equitable. And we can have all the police race action plans we want, but unless they're making an actual difference, then they're just pieces of paper that gather dust on shelves. Because how many different action plans have we had? There was the Diversity, Equality and Inclusion Plan. There was the Macpherson report, the Scarman report. These reports and action plans go back over 1/4 of a decade. What's changed? Nothing. So we drill down into some other police forces, and I'm going to name and shame here because, quite frankly, I've been talking about this and highlighting this for that many years now that if naming and shaming doesn't do anything, then what will? So we talk about if you're white, 18.7% of you are going to succeed nationally. If you're black, 7.2% of you are going to succeed. Let's take it one step further. Hampshire, during Uplift, 244 black applicants, 244. Only 6 succeeded. 6 out of 244. That's 2.4% of all the applicants. Bedfordshire Police, 167 applied. Only 3 succeeded. 3 out of 167. It's absolutely shocking. Are you angry yet? You should be. Not if you're black, you should be very angry. If you're white, you should be very angry. If you're just anyone who cares passionately about policing and how policing, the police should represent the communities that we should be a part of, then you should be angry at this point. Or certainly have some feelings there. Police Race Action Plan from a few years ago, the one that's being redeveloped now, promised to eliminate racial bias in the police recruitment process. It hasn't. Promised new standards. It hasn't. Promised that black people would not be disadvantaged. It hasn't succeeded. And that black people would be assessed fairly. And that clearly isn't the case. So why is this the case? I mean, the only person I know who's done any research around this is Dr. Gareth Stubbs. He's not retired, but a resigned Chief Inspector from Lancashire Police. He is now a lecturer at the University of Abu Dhabi. And his research has gone into the impact of close social ties within the police. And I'm not going to go into that in too much depth. That'll be subject of another video. But the fact it's took a resigned Chief Inspector who's working in Abu Dhabi to do anything about this, don't you think that's shocking? I do. If this is such an important issue, where's the research? Where are the chief officers saying this is not acceptable? Where's the chief officer of Hampshire Police? Where's the Policing and Crime Commissioner for Bedfordshire Police, Festus, who is black himself? Where's he? He should be holding the chief officer to account. 167 black people applied to join Bedfordshire Police during Uplift, and only 3 succeeded. Are you okay with that? I'm not. Festus, if you're listening to this, why are you okay with this? So, what are we going to do about it? I'm going to try and keep this fairly short because I had Ron Locke at the corner of me looking at me at the conference to say, come on, wind it down a little bit. So I can go into this a little bit more depth now because it's my time, it's my video. I'm going to give you 10 things now. 10 things that you could do if you're a chief officer to start remedying this. And this is based on not just research of what I've looked at across the world as to what's worked to help balance out the police service in terms of diversity, equality and inclusion, but also my own experience. My own experience is evidence. I've been doing this for 30 years now. I've been focusing a lot more on recruitment for the past 13 years. I don't know of anyone else in the United Kingdom who's got the sort of knowledge I have about the recruitment process that I have. And that might seem a bold thing to say, but I really don't know of anyone. If you find that person, I'd love to meet them and we could geek out about police recruitment stuff. So first of all, number one, if this is not a strategic priority within your force, nothing will happen. And the one thing that the Police Race Action Plan is missing is metrics. So there's lots of warm words in the action plan, and that's all I've been hearing over the past several years is warm words. But there's no metrics. There's no, here we are now, here's where we need to be. It just doesn't exist. So without metrics, you won't know whether you've been successful. So eliminate racial bias, that was in the Police Race Action Plan. New standards are not disadvantaged, are assessed fairly. There's no starting point. There's no data, there's no information, and problems get solved. The starting point for any problems that get solved is a mixture of quantitative and qualitative data. Well, I've got the data. I mean, I was asked about this at another conference about a month ago, again, hosted by the National Police Chiefs Council. So Chief Superintendent asked me this question: where's all this data held nationally? And all I could say was, well, probably on the laptops of Matilda Mallinson, Pete Jones, Dr. Pete Jones, and my laptop. I'm not aware of it being held centrally anywhere. Is that good enough? So it's got to be a strategic priority and with metrics. Secondly, unless questions are asked about strategic priorities, then they're not real strategic priorities. So chief officers need to ask divisional commanders, borough commanders, one question, just one question only. What are you doing to improve the diversity of your borough, of your division? What are you personally doing to ensure that your division, your borough, is more diverse? Thirdly, commission the research. You know, I've talked about Gareth Stubbs's research, Matilda Mallinson, Pete Jones, myself. You know, it can't be left to a handful of people outside the police. I mean, it really can't. Can it? Or can it? You let me know in the comments. You know, if you think, yeah, it's okay, you guys, you know, you keep pushing on. The four of you just keep pushing on and being angry about this, or being frustrated about this, whatever the feelings I have at any one time about this. If you think that's okay, let me know. If you don't, then let me know. But the research needs to be commissioned. We need to find out why these problems are occurring, both nationally and also in force. So I don't know in Bedfordshire, out of those 3 individuals that were successful, I don't know how long they lasted. I don't know at what point everyone else dropped out and why. I have no idea, and I suspect no one else does. Some forces don't even have that data. They don't have the ONS 4+1 data. They're just pulling everyone together as black, Asian, minority, ethnic, and saying that, yeah, X percentage of BAME succeeded or failed. They don't even have the data as a starting point. How can they be saying that the Police Race Action Plan is an absolute priority for them when they don't even have the starting point in terms of data? So we've got to have the data, we've got to show an interest. So those first 3 things are all about showing an interest, strategic priority, asking the difficult questions, because whatever questions get asked, get done. We know that in the police service. I know that. I've been in the police sector now since 1985. 39 years now. I know how it works. Unless you ask questions about the thing doesn't get done. So it doesn't matter how many times it's a strategic priority on paper. Unless divisional commanders are being asked questions about it, it doesn't get done. And unless you're showing an interest in it, it doesn't get done. So how do we get people who aren't divisional commanders and police chiefs to take an interest? We create it as a nudge question on promotion boards. So here's how the question goes. What have you personally done as a candidate to be an inspector, as a sergeant, whatever it might be? What have you personally done to improve the diversity of this force? And it's a pass or fail question. It could be introduced tomorrow. And I've spent a couple of days with a positive action team is not a good enough answer. So, number 5, bias within the system. Good, careful look at this. Dr. Gareth Stubbs alludes to this with his close social ties research. Despite the fact that the College of Policing says that you don't need to know anything about policing to pass the online assessment centre, which is part of the recruitment process, I'd suggest you do, subject of another video. Just based on my experience and the experience of thousands of people I've spoken to over the years, yes, you do. And for police forces like the Metropolitan Police Detective Constable process, you need to know something about policing. You need to know a lot about policing, actually, because your in-tray exercise is the in-tray from hell for any detective constable. Your briefing exercise you do is about a serious, violent crime that's taken place, and you're going to be asked questions about how you're going to deal with it. You need to do a 10-minute briefing using what we recommend is the II March system. If you've got someone who's close to you in the police, you're more likely to be able to succeed in that. If you're black, you're less likely to have someone you know in the police. Less likely. I'm not saying not at all. And this is the theory behind the close social ties research. I'm sure there are other reasons, but we've got to find out where the bias is taking place. Is it unconscious bias, or is it just discrimination? Now, after all of these years with the police service just not caring or not seeming to care, then I can only call it discrimination. I'm just going to call it out for what I think it is. It's discrimination. Number 6, is there any reason why you can't have all minority or black assessors? If your answer is we don't know enough black people or minority people, then you're in trouble. Is there any reason why you couldn't have a black community mentor or community friend on the promotion boards, on the recruitment panels? I don't think there is. And I get it that bias exists. Listen, I worked in the islands and I did a lot of work with the islands when I was in Special Branch. Did a lot of work with other islands, and a lot of the officers I worked with were from the islands as well. I talk about in the Caribbean and in the Bahamas. And I know that there's a lot of bias between islands and black Caribbean and black African and black Jamaican, black Trinidadian, black Dominican. I get it, but when you have an interview panel that is mostly all white or all white, then I've got to ask why. Number 7, I think that police recruitment is too reactive, and I don't think it's very proactive. So out of the 164 individuals for Bedfordshire, out of the 167 that failed, just as an example, is there any reason why every one of them couldn't get a call back? Why every one of them couldn't get a telephone call, an email, no, a telephone call from someone who's interested? They don't have to be from the positive action team. We shouldn't dump everything on positive action teams. I've spoken to so many positive action team members over the years, and they all feel the weight of the force. And actually noticed this at both the conferences, that we've got a lead for this, we've got a positive action team for this. No, it's everyone's responsibility. So Robert Peel said so in 1829. It's not a new idea. It's your responsibility as a police officer to do something to ensure that your service, the force you work for, represents the communities that it's meant to be a part of, not apart from. And there's a difference between the two. So is there any reason why everyone can't be called back? Find out if they're still interested. See what we can do to get them back into the recruitment pathway again. And this isn't just about positive action. Number 8, what are you doing on division? What are you doing in the neighbourhood teams to find the people who might want to look to join the police and do something to support them? Now, one of the ideas that were floated in the Promotion Academy, this is where we help support people for promotion boards, is allowing people to have their refs. But on one condition: you're going to get your full 45-minute refs, but you're not going to get it's not going to be a Greggs, it's not going to be a McDonald's, it's not going to be a Tesco's meal deal. You're going to go to the Black Heritage Centre, you're going to go to the Irish Heritage Centre, you're going to go to wherever the community centre might be, and that's where you're going to get your refs. Because most of those community centres do awesome food. Trust me, I've been to so many of them. They do amazing food. So go and get your food there. And don't approach it like the police normally approach things. You know, trying to find out what the problems and priorities are from day one. No, relationships aren't built like that. Relationships are only built at the speed of trust. That's my experience, 8 years as a neighbourhood inspector. That's my experience. I've made that faux pas of trying to go in too quickly, to try and get information too quickly. We slow down, and we wait until the conversations happen more authentically. Subject of another video and podcast, but this is about how we engage with communities. It's not about getting them to engage with us. There's no such thing as a seldom heard or hard to reach community. They're only hard to reach because you can't be bothered getting off your backside, and they're only seldom heard because you're not listening. You're just not listening. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to listen. And I'll put money on this. I'll guarantee this. I'll put £1,000 to a charity of choice on this, that within 6 months, someone will approach one of your officers, excuse me, and say, look, I'm thinking that actually the police might be a good career choice for me, or for my daughter or son or brother or sister or whoever it might be. Now, when I floated this past promotion candidates, I've gone, yeah, it's a great idea that. We could then put them in touch with the positive action team. No, we don't do that. Is there any reason why that officer can't coach and mentor that individual? The reason why they approached you in the first place was because they trusted you. The relationship's already there. Build upon it. Be that close social tie. The research tells us that that works, so why don't we make it happen? This will help with so many other areas around, as well, around community engagement. Number 9, enforce mentoring from day one. So the positive action teams kind of let go of them a little bit at day one. And if you're a black person, one black person in a sea of white people, I don't know. Well, actually I do. It might feel quite uncomfortable because I've been the only white person in a sea of black people on a regular basis because I worked in a minority. I was a minority in the community. I was a minority in the service that I worked for. I know how it feels. It took me a while to get used to it, but I know how it feels. So that enforced mentoring needs to be there. And there's no reason why that mentoring can't continue from the officer that started the mentoring off. Is there any reason why that wouldn't happen? Let's think about it. If just one officer from every team over a period of 2 years found just 4 people that they mentored, what difference would that make to the force? I'd suggest a massive difference. But anyway, lots of ideas like that are there for the taking. You've just got to be bold and do something different, because clearly what you're doing at the moment is not going to work. All I'm hearing, by the way, from the Police Race Action Plan is more positive action. It's not working. It didn't work. It's not worked over the past decade. So why do we think it's going to work now? If we do more of it, why do we think it's going to work better? It won't. You can tinker around the edges, but you might tinker around the edges with the data. It's not going to make the big difference. Bold action is needed now. And number 10, it's not my idea, this one, peel inspections. The peel inspections around the Police Race Action Plan at the moment seem to have just focused on the bickering between police chiefs as to whether the police are institutionally discriminating or not. And actually it's not a good look. And the peel inspections actually refer to that. The inspectorate refers to that. And I say it's not my idea because it's actually in the Police Race Action Plan from a few years ago that HMIC, FRS will actually inspect forces around the Police Race Action Plan. And at the moment they've got as far as, are the police institutionally racist or not, and the bickering that exists around that. That's 3 years worth of inspection worth, and we've not got anywhere near the data. And I look back to 3 people who seem to care about this data. Just 3, and they're not even in the police. Matilda, she's got nothing to do with the police. She's a journalist. Pete Jones and I are retired police officers, and we care. So here's my call to action. Here is my call to action. Any of those 10 things, if you start doing them tomorrow, are going to make a difference. They will. If anyone wants to argue with me that they won't, then let's do it. Let's have that conversation, because I'd love to have the conversation. But any of those things will nudge you closer to a police service that is on its way towards representation. It's within the gift for any police chief out there to be the first to stand on a stage and say, my force is on track to over-representation within 10 years. They could be that police chief having that conversation on a stage at a conference in less than 3 years' time. And I'm prepared to help them. I'm prepared to help them. I will advise, I will guide, I will give you my years of expertise, decades of expertise, both academic, practical, and my experience, and my passion, and my enthusiasm for this. I will give you all of that. All you've got to do is reach out. Reach out in the comments, whether you're watching this on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever it might be, reach out. And I'll help you. Why? Because I care. And I'm not going to charge you a penny. There was an individual at the conference the other week who was going, oh yeah, but what about our budget, travel budget? I don't care about that neither. I'll pay for that. I'll pay for my own way. I'll pay my hotel bills. I'll pay my travel. I won't bill you anything because I care about this. And it's got to change. And I can't change it on my own. The only people who can change this are the people within the service now. Do you care enough to act? You're highly capable. You're well connected. But do you care enough to act? And if given the opportunity to do so, will you commit to take action? It's within your gift. I shall leave it to you so that we can say the police are the public and the public are the police for all people, no matter what their backgrounds are. Please make this happen. It's really important. All right, hope you enjoyed this. Well, not enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of this. I hope it's got you thinking. Drop me a line. Let's talk. Let's see where we can take this. Bye for now.